여러분, 안녕하세요. 저는 아리아나 선생님.
저는 리오 선생님입니다.
Before starting today's class, we will first check the correct answer to the homework given in the last class. This is the correct answer to homework. Number 1. 이미 영화가 시작한 것 같아요. It means, I think the movie has already started. Next, 수업 내내 잔 것 같아요. I think I slept the whole class. Next one, 가게가 문을 닫은 것 같아요. I think the store is closed. Next, 어제 이 책을 읽은 것 같아요. It means I think I read this book yesterday. 오늘 아침에 비가 온 것 같아요. I think it rained this morning. Did you do homework well?
Wow, that's great. Well, before starting today's class, we will review what we learned last time. Let's review about 은 것 같다 and 니은 것 같다. Also, it is used to talk about an action that happened in the past or to guess what happened in the past. For example, there is a sentence like this. 미소 씨는 집에 간 것 같아요. 가방이 자리에 없어요. The meaning of this sentence is that 미소 has gone home. Her bag is not there. We can say 간 것 같아요 on the basis of 가방이 자리에 없어요.
Let's look another example. 미소 씨 책상 위에 꽃이 있어요. 남자친구한테 선물 받은 것 같아요. The meaning of this sentence is there is a flower on 미소's desk. I think it was a gift from her boyfriend. Here, 책상 위에 꽃이 있어요 is the basis and based on this fact, we guess and say 받은 것 같아요.
Then let's see what form it is used for. Let's learn when the 은 것 같다 is used. If there is a final consonant in the stem, we can use 은 것 같다. For example, if you see the verb 먹다 first delete 다, then see the final consonant in the stem of the verb, then use 은 것 같다 after it. It becomes 먹은 것 같다.
Let's look at another example. When we see the verb 읽다, we first delete 다. Then you can see that there is no final consonant in the stem of the verb. Then use 은 것 같다 after it. It becomes 읽은 것 같다.
Then I will explain 니은 것 같다. When there is no final consonant in the stem, 니은 것 같다 is used. For example, if you see the verb 가다, first delete 다. So, can you see that there is no final consonant in the stem of the verb? Then we use 니은 것 같다 after it. So it becomes 간 것 같다.
Let's look at another example. When looking at the verb 오다, we delete 다 first. Then you can see that the stem of the verb has no final consonant. Then we use 니은 것 같다 after it. So it becomes 온 것 같다.
Yes, even when the final consonant is real, 니은 것 같다 is used. For example, if you see the verb 만들다, first delete 다. Then you can see that the final consonant is real in the stem of the verb. Then, first we remove real and add 니은 것 같다 after it. So it becomes 만든 것 같다.
Let's look at another example. When you see the verb 알다, first delete 다. Then you can see that the final consonant is 리을 in the stem of the verb. Then we can use 니은 것 같다 after it. So it becomes 안 것 같다.
Then from now on, let's learn more while looking at the example sentences. This is the first example sentence. 학생들이 나오는 게 수업이 다 끝나다. If we apply the grammar we learned today, it becomes the sentence 학생들이 나오는 게 수업이 다 끝난 것 같아요. Here, if you delete 다 from the verb 끝나다, you can see that there is no consonant in the stem of the verb. That's why we use 니은 것 같다. So it becomes 끝난 것 같다.
This is the second example sentence. 음식을 다 먹다. If you remove 다 from the verb 먹다 in this sentence, you can see that there is a final consonant in the stem of the verb. That's why we can use 것 같다. Then 음식을 다 먹은 것 같아요.
This is a third example sentence. 이 가방은 미소 씨가 만들다. In this sentence, we delete 다 from the verb 만들다. Then you can see that the consonant is 리을 in the stem of the verb. Then we use 니은 것 같다 after it. So it becomes 이 가방은 미소 씨가 만든 것 같아요.
This is the fourth example. 미소 씨가 감기에 걸리다. If you apply the grammar you learned today, it becomes the sentence 미소 씨가 감기에 걸린 것 같아요. Here, if you delete 다 from the verb 감기에 걸리다, you can see that there is no final consonant in the stem of the verb. Then use 니은 것 같아요. So it becomes 미소 씨가 감기에 걸린 것 같아요.
This is the last example. 미소 씨가 잠을 못 자다. One more time. 미소 씨가 잠을 못 자다. If you remove 다 from the verb 자다 in this sentence, can you see that there is no final consonant in the stem of the verb? Then use 니은 것 같다. Then it becomes 미소 씨가 잠을 잘 못 잔 것 같아요. Yes, thank you. So, can you tell us the table of contents before starting today's class, teacher Ariana?
Of course, I'll give you the contents for today's class. First, let's learn the grammar concepts of Korea. Second, let's do some problem solution to practice the grammar we learned. Third, after solving the problem, we will learn the concepts by applying our knowledge. Fourth, we will practice by repeating the conversation directly through conversation class. Lastly, we will take the time to organize the class and announce the homework.
Yes, thank you. Then we will start the class. Today's lesson is 을 것 같다 and 리을 것 같다. 을, 리을 것 같다 are used after the adjective or verb stem. It is used to guess the future or present. For example, there is a sentence such as 날씨가 흐려요. 제 생각에는 오후에 비가 올 것 같아요. The meaning of this sentence is it's cloudy. I think it will rain in the afternoon. guessing on the basis of 날씨가 흐려요. So we says 제 생각에는 오후에 비가 올 것 같아요.
Let's look at another example. There is a sentence saying 이 음식은 너무 매워요. 그래서 저는 못 먹을 것 같아요. The meaning of this sentence is this food is too spicy, so I don't think I can eat it. Guessing on the basis of 이 음식은 너무 매워요. We can say 그래서 저는 못 먹을 것 같아요. One of the expressions that Koreans use a lot is 죽을 것 같다. It is used when talking about a very difficult or painful situation. For example, there is the sentence 너무 더워서 죽을 것 같다. It means it's too hot and it's too hard. Also, when it's too cold, you can say 너무 추워서 죽을 것 같다.
Then let's see what form it is used for. Let's learn when the 을 것 같다 is used. If there is a final consonant in the stem, we can use 을 것 같다. For example, if you see the verb 먹다, first delete 다. Then see the final consonant in the stem of the verb. Then use 을 것 같다 after it. It becomes 먹을 것 같다.
Let's look at another example. When we see the verb 작다, we first delete 다. Then you can see that there is no final consonant in the stem of the verb. Then we can use 을 것 같다 after it. It becomes 작을 것 같다.
Then I will explain 리을 것 같다. When there is no final consonant in the stem, 리을 것 같다 is used. For example, if you see the verb 오다, first delete 다. So can you see that there is no final consonant in the stem of the verb? Then we use 리을 것 같다 after it. So it becomes 올 것 같다.
Let's look at another example. When looking at the verb 크다, we delete 다 first. Then you can see that the stem of the verb has no final consonant. Then we can use 리을 것 같다 after it. It becomes 클 것 같다.
Yes, even when the final consonant is 리을 것 같다 is used. For example, if you see the verb 만들다, first delete 다. Then you can see that the final consonant is 리을 in the stem of the verb. Then first we remove 리을 and add 리을 것 같다 after it. So it becomes 만들 것 같다.
Let's look at another example. When you see the verb 달다, first delete 다. Then you can see that the final consonant is 리을 in the stem of the verb. Then use 리을 것 같다 after it. So it becomes 달 것 같다.
Then from now on, let's learn more while looking at the example sentences. This is the first example sentence. 내일은 왠지 비가 오다 것 같아요. If we apply the grammar we learned today, it becomes the sentence 내일은 왠지 비가 올 것 같아요. Here, if you delete 다 from the verb 오다, you can see that there is no final consonant in the stem of the verb. That's why we use 리을 것 같다. So it becomes 올 것 같다.
This is the second example sentence. 이번 여름은 너무 더워서 죽다 것 같아요. If you remove 다 from the verb 죽다 in this sentence, you can see that there is a final consonant in the stem of the verb. That's why we use 일 것 같다. Then 이번 여름은 너무 더워서 죽을 것 같아요.
This is the third example sentence. 설탕을 많이 넣어서 음식이 좀 달다 것 같아요. In this sentence, we delete 다 from the adjective 달다. Then you can see that the consonant is real in the stem of the verb. Then we use 리을 것 같다 after it. So it becomes 설탕을 많이 넣어서 음식이 좀 달 것 같아요.
This is fourth example. 저에게는 옷이 크다 것 같아요. If you apply the grammar you learned today, it becomes the sentence 저에게는 옷이 클 것 같아요. Here, if you delete 다 from the adjective 크다, you can see that there is no final consonant in the stem of the adjective. Then we can use 리을 것 같아요. So it becomes 저에게는 옷이 클 것 같아요.
Yes, this is the last example. 이번 방학에 여행 가다 것 같아요. If you remove 다 from the verb 가다 in this sentence, can you see that there is no final consonant in the stem of the verb? Then use 리을 것 같다. Then it becomes 이번 방학에 여행 갈 것 같아요.
Do you understand? If you understand, please make a circle over your head.
Yes, thank you. Then we will take time to practice the grammar we just learned.
Hello guys, this is Ariana and this is Grace. Then let's solve the problem by applying the grammar learned today. The first problem will be solved with us, and for the second problem, we will give you a little time, so please try it. This is the first problem. 도서관이 여기에서 멀다 것 같아요. How can we change 멀다? Yes, the answer is 멀 것 같아요. Since the verb 멀다 has the final consonant 리을, the final consonant 리을 disappears and 리을 것 같다 is added. Therefore, it becomes 멀 것 같아요. Let's read it all together. 도서관이 여기에서 멀 것 같아요. One more time. 도서관이 여기에서 멀 것 같아요.
Next problem. 내일부터 우리는 공사를 하다 같아요. How can we change 하다? Yes. The answer is 할 것 같아요. Since the verb 하다 does not have a consonant 리을 것 같다 is added after the verb. Let's say it together. 내일부터 우리는 공사를 할 것 같아요. One more time. 내일부터 우리는 공사를 할 것 같아요.
Next one. 우리 주말에 일하다 것 같아요. How can we change 일하다? Yes, right. The answer is 일할 것 같아요. Since there is no final at the end of the verb 일하다, 리을 것 같아요 is added after the verb. So it becomes 일할 것 같아요. Let's say together. 우리 주말에 일할 것 같아요. One more time. 우리 주말에 일할 것 같아요.
Next problem. 내일 비가 오다. How can we change 오다? Yes, right. The answer is 올 것 같다. Since the verb 오다 does not have a consonant, 리을 것 같다 is added after the verb. Therefore, it becomes 올 것 같다. Let's say it together. 내일 비가 올 것 같다. One more time. 내일 비가 올 것 같다. Yes, you did very well.
So let's solve the next problem. 내가 좋아하는 축구팀이 이기다 것 같아요. How can we change 이기다? Yes, right. The answer is 이길 것 같다. Since there is no consonant for the verb 이기다, 릴 것 같다 is added after the verb. Then it becomes 이길 것 같다. Let's read the sentence together. 내가 좋아하는 축구팀이 이길 것 같다. One more time. 내가 좋아하는 축구팀이 이길 것 같다.
So let's solve the next problem. 나는 내일 운동장을 뛰다. How can we change 뛰다? Yes, the answer is 뛸 것 같다. Since the verb 뛰다 does not have a consonant 릴 것 같다 is added after the verb. That's why it becomes 뛸 것 같다. Shall we all read it together? 나는 내일 운동장을 뛸 것 같다. One more time. 나는 내일 운동장을 뛸 것 같다.
Yes, this time we will look at the verb and solve the problem of changing it accordingly. 마시다, 마시다. How can we change 마시다? Yes, the answer is 마실 것 같다. If 다 is removed from the verb 마시다, there is no final consonant at the end, so it seems to be 릴 것 같다. So it becomes 마실 것 같다.
Next one, 보다, 보다. How can we change 보다? Yes, it is 볼 것 같다. If 다 is removed from the verb 보다, 릴 것 같다 is added after the verb because there is no final consonant. Then it becomes 볼 것 같다.
Next one, 가다, 가다. How can we change 가다? Yes, it is 갈 것 같다. If 다 is removed from the verb 가다, 릴 것 같다 is added after the verb because there is no consonant at the end. Then it becomes 갈 것 같다.
Next one, 앉다, 앉다. How can we change 앉다? Yes, it is 앉을 것 같다. If 다 is removed from the verb 앉다, 을 것 같다 is added after the verb because there is a consonant at the end. Then it becomes 앉을 것 같다.
Next one, 먹다, 먹다. How can we change 먹다? Yes, the answer is 먹을 것 같다. If that is removed from the verb 먹다, there is a final consonant at the end. So, 을 것 같다 is added after the verb. Then it becomes 먹을 것 같다. Yes, the problem solving time ends here. Next time is a fun conversation time.
Everyone, fun conversation time is back. Hello, I'm teacher Grace.
And I'm teacher Rio.
Rio, the weather is too hot.
Great. So I prepared.
What?
오늘은 계곡에 갈 거예요. 생각만 해도 너무 시원할 것 같지 않나요?
오늘은 계곡에 갈 거예요. 생각만 해도 너무 시원할 것 같지 않나요?
The meaning of this sentence is we are going to the valley today. Doesn't it sound so cool just thinking about it? Can you see the grammar? 을 것 같다 we learned today. 을 것 같다 is used to speculate about the future or the present. Rio thinks of the valley, guesses the future, and uses grammar. Can you see that there is no consonant for 하다 in the verb 시원하다? Then 리을 것 같다 is used at the end. So it becomes 시원할 것 같다. Please repeat after me. 오늘은 계곡에 갈 거예요. 생각만 해도 너무 시원할 것 같지 않나요?
오늘은 계곡에 갈 거예요. 생각만 해도 너무 시원할 것 같지 않나요? Here, 계곡 is valley. 오늘 is today. 시원하다 is cool. Everyone, what do you say valley in Korean? Yes, it is 계곡. Then, what do you say today in Korean? Yes, it is 오늘. Then, what do you say cool in Korean? Yes, it is 시원하다. Repeat after me one more time. 오늘은 계곡에 갈 거예요. 생각만 해도 너무 시원할 것 같지 않나요?
오늘은 계곡에 갈 거예요. 생각만 해도 너무 시원할 것 같지 않나요? This time, after I read it quickly, please repeat after me. 오늘은 계곡에 갈 거예요. 생각만 해도 너무 시원할 것 같지 않나요?
오늘은 계곡에 갈 거예요. 생각만 해도 너무 시원할 것 같지 않나요?
Then, shall we go to the valley together?
Wow, that's really cool! Rio, let's play in the water.
Grace, the water is so cold.
리오, 조심히 걸어야 해요. 미끄러워서 넘어질 것 같아요.
리오, 조심히 걸어야 해요. 미끄러워서 넘어질 것 같아요.
The meaning of this sentence is Rio, you have to walk carefully. It is slippery and I think I will fall. Can you see the grammar? 을 것 같다 we learned today? 을 것 같다 is used to speculate about the future or the present. Can you see that there is no consonant for 지다 in the verb 넘어지다? Then, 리을 것 같다 is used at the end. So it becomes 넘어질 것 같다. Please repeat after me. 리오, 조심히 걸어야 해요. 미끄러워서 넘어질 것 같아요.
리오, 조심히 걸어야 해요. 미끄러워서 넘어질 것 같아요. Here, 걷다 is walk, and 미끄러운 is slippery, and 넘어지다 is fall. Everyone, what do you say walk in Korean? Yes, it is 걷다. Then, what do you say slippery in Korean? Yes, it is 미끄러운. Then, what do you say fall in Korean? Yes, it is 넘어지다. Repeat after me one more time. Rio, 조심히 걸어야 해요. 미끄러워서 넘어질 것 같아요.
리오, 조심히 걸어야 해요. 미끄러워서 넘어질 것 같아요. This time, after I read it quickly, please repeat after me. 리오, 조심히 걸어야 해요. 미끄러워서 넘어질 것 같아요.
리오, 조심히 걸어야 해요. 미끄러워서 넘어질 것 같아요. At some point, you will be able to speak Korean fluently on the screen that you follow aloud.
Rio, today weather very hot. Shall we go home?
Yes, then let's go eat dinner together.
괜찮아요. 저는 가족이랑 레스토랑에 갈 것 같아요.
괜찮아요. 저는 가족이랑 레스토랑에 갈 것 같아요.
The meaning of this sentence is It's okay. I think I will go to a restaurant with my family. Can you see the grammar? 을 것 같다 will learn today. 을 것 같다 is used to speculate about the future or the present. Can you see that the verb 가다 has no consonant? Then, 릴 것 같다 is used at the end. So it becomes 갈 것 같다. Please repeat after me. 괜찮아요. 저는 가족이랑 레스토랑에 갈 것 같아요.
괜찮아요. 저는 가족이랑 레스토랑에 갈 것 같아요. Here, 괜찮아요 is it's okay and 가족 is family. Everyone, what do you say is okay in Korean? Yes, it is 괜찮아요. Then, what do you say family in Korean? Yes, it is 가족. Repeat after me one more time. 괜찮아요. 저는 가족이랑 레스토랑에 갈 것 같아요.
괜찮아요. 저는 가족이랑 레스토랑에 갈 것 같아요. This time, after I read it quickly, please repeat after me. 괜찮아요. 저는 가족이랑 레스토랑에 갈 것 같아요.
괜찮아요. 저는 가족이랑 레스토랑에 갈 것 같아요.
Yes, everyone did so well. Thank you so much. Shall we clap once for all of you who studied hard today?
This is the end of conversation time. Then we will invite Ariana and Rio and have some time to wrap it up.
Did you understand everything we learned today?
Yes, I think everyone understands. Then I will review it so that you don't forget it.
Today's lesson is 을 것 같다 and 릴 것 같다. 을 and 릴 것 같다 are used after the adjective or verb stem. It is used to guess the future or present. For example, there is a sentence such as 날씨가 흐려요. 제 생각에는 오후에 비가 올 것 같아요. The meaning of this sentence is it's cloudy. I think it will rain in the afternoon. Guessing on the basis of 날씨가 흐려요. So, we say 제 생각에는 오후에 비가 올 것 같아요.
Let's look at another example. There is a sentence saying 이 음식은 너무 매워요. 그래서 저는 못 먹을 것 같아요. Guessing on the basis of 이 음식은 너무 매워요. We can say 그래서 저는 못 먹을 것 같아요. One of the expressions that Koreans use a lot is 죽을 것 같다. It is used when talking about a very difficult or painful situation.
For example, there is the sentence 너무 더워서 죽을 것 같다. It means it's too hot and is too hard. Also, when it's too cold, you can say 너무 추워서 죽을 것 같다. Then, let's see what form it is used for. Let's learn when the 을 것 같다 is used. If there is a final consonant in the stem, we can use 을 것 같다. For example, if you see the verb 먹다, first delete 다. Then see the final consonant in the stem of the verb, then we can use 을 것 같다 after it. It becomes 먹을 것 같다.
Let's look at another example. When we see the verb 작다, we first delete 다. Then you can see that there is no final consonant in the stem of the verb. Then use 을 것 같다 after it. It becomes 작을 것 같다.
Then I explain 리을 것 같다. When there is no final consonant in the stem, 리을 것 같다 is used. For example, if you see the verb 오다, first delete 다. So can you see that there is no final consonant in the stem of the verb? Yes, then we can use 리을 것 같다 after it. So it becomes 을 것 같다. Let's look at another example. When looking at the verb 크다, we delete 다 first. Then you can see that the stem of the verb has no final consonant. Then we can use 리을 것 같다 after it. So it becomes 클 것 같다.
Yes, even when the final consonant is 리을 것 같다 is used. For example, if you see the verb 만들다, first delete 다. Then you can see that the final consonant is 리을 in the stem of the verb. Then first we remove 리을 and add 리을 것 같다 after it. So it becomes 만들 것 같다.
Let's look at another example. When you see the verb 달다. When you see the adjective 달다, first delete 다, then you can see that the final consonant is 리을 in the stem of the adjective. Then we can use 리을 것 같다 after it. So it becomes 달 것 같다.
Then from now on, let's learn more while looking at the example sentences. This is the first example sentence. 내일은 왠지 비가 오다 것 같아요. If we apply the grammar we learned today, it becomes the sentence 내일은 왠지 비가 올 것 같아요. Here, if you delete 다 from the verb 오다, you can see that there is no final consonant in the stem of the verb. That's why we use 리을 것 같다. So it becomes 올 것 같다.
This is the second example sentence. 이번 여름은 너무 더워서 죽다 것 같아요. If you remove 다 from the verb 죽다 in this sentence, you can see that there is a final consonant in the stem of the verb. That's why we can use 을 것 같다. Then 이번 여름은 너무 더워서 죽을 것 같아요.
This is the third example sentence. 설탕을 많이 넣어서 음식이 좀 달다 것 같아요. In this sentence, we delete 다 from the adjective 달다. Then you can see that the consonant is 리을 in the stem of the verb. Then we use 리을 것 같다 after it. So it becomes 설탕을 많이 넣어서 음식이 좀 달 것 같아요.
This is the fourth example. 저에게는 옷이 크다 것 같아요. If you apply the grammar you learned today, it becomes the sentence 저에게는 옷이 클 것 같아요. Here, if you delete the from the adjective 크다, you can see that there is no final consonant in the stem of the adjective. Then we can use 리을 것 같아요. So it becomes 저에게는 옷이 클 것 같아요.
Yes, this is last example. 이번 방학에 여행 갈 것 같아요. 이번 방학에 여행 가다 것 같아요. If you remove 다 from the verb 가다 in this sentence, can you see that there is no final consonant in the stem of the verb? Then use 리을 것 같다. Then it becomes 이번 방학에 여행 갈 것 같아요.
Yes, today's class is done here. So finally, let me tell you about homework. Today's homework is to complete the sentence using the grammar we learned today.
Yes, I hope you don't forget your homework. So let's take the time to learn basic word.
Hello everyone! It's a fun time to learn basic words. The basic words we learn today are 가르치다, 배우다, 얻다. First, the meaning of the word 가르치다 is teaching. You can use this expression when you give someone knowledge. For example, a teacher can use it to impart knowledge to students. 선생님이 학생들을 가르치고 있습니다. You can use. The second basic word is 배우다. In English, 배우다 is learn. It is used when receiving instruction as opposed to 가르치다. For example, 선생님에게 수학을 배우고 있어요. You can say. The last word to learn is 얻다. When you say 얻다 in English, it is called get. For example, when you receive something and have it, you can say 친구에게 볼펜을 얻었다. Yes, then we will end today's class here. 여러분, 다음 시간에 봐요. Bye!
Hello, my name is Joey. I am a mind education specialist. And you might be wondering, what is mind education? Actually, mind education is a character development education that we originally developed to help children grow up to be successful adults. And we believe that this character development education can be beneficial for you as well, because many inmates of different countries were able to benefit from our program. So, without any further ado, let's dive right in. Now, here we have a picture of a bridge. Now, I know you might be thinking, wait, how could I, that doesn't even make sense. How am I supposed to imagine that I'm a bridge? I'm a human being. But, you know that famous movie, Forrest Gump? He said, life is like a box of chocolates, right? So, let's just take that same idea and apply it to our lives. Imagine if we were like a bridge. We would be connecting one place to another, and whoever comes down the road, they're going to try and cross us. So let's imagine, what kind of things do we come across in our lives? Well, when we were younger, we were coming across school, we were coming across school assignments, we were coming across lots of different friends. We were coming across lots of difficult teachers and people that we didn't like, people we do like, and so on and so forth. The list goes on. And Imagine how your life was like before you ever did anything bad. Imagine that. And that's the bridge that I want you to think about. Sometimes there were difficult things happening, and it was weighing heavy on the bridge. But you managed to endure it and say, you know what, I overcame that. And when there were some difficult things, like for instance, if a bunch of kids were to walk down this bridge, they're going to be stomping all over the place, right? They're not supposed to be that heavy, but they sure feel heavy. And they're going to be hanging on the railings, hanging out and hanging in and trying to play all around. And as a bridge, you probably wouldn't like that. But you had your difficulties and you were able to handle them. And as time would go on, the bridge would have its wear and tear. Sometimes when there's something too heavy, there's a boom, a nick here, boom, a crack there. And as this continues to happen over time, the bridge will get weaker and weaker. And as you see in this picture, the bridge is torn apart in a lot of different places. There's moss growing on the bridge. The things that you didn't even think about becomes a problem later on. Things that you would just kind of sweep under the rug once in a while sometimes comes back and haunts you. And sometimes the things that you feel were just too difficult, those things leave a scar, a wound in your heart. And as these things continue to pile on and on with the oncoming years, what do we see here? There is the parts that are supposed to hold up the bridge. But with the wear and tear of the water, it's become weaker and weaker. Imagine what's going to happen if something heavy were to pass over on that bridge now. It'd be a very dangerous cross, right? And that is how, when our lives began to sustain a lot of damage, when our hearts sustained a lot of wounds, lots of scars, then these damages accumulate over time. And then until one day, what happens? What happened that one day? Eventually, the bridge snaps. And all the things that you have piled up to work for, all the things that you were doing in your life, comes to a crumbling halt. And the bridge snaps. And imagine if this was the event that caused you to first take that first step into doing something illegal. I mean, of course, there are lots of different laws that make it impossible for you to tell whether if you were doing something illegal or not. But you know, the first day, the first time that you've ever had that bridge collapse under you, something happened. Well, actually, many things were happening, and it just pushed you over the edge to do the thing that it made you end up where you are. Or for some of you, it might have been a cascade of events that started from that one little point, that one moment in your life where you decided to say, you know what? I don't care about anything else. You know what? I can't take this anymore. I am going to go in this direction and nobody gonna stop me. Now, why did the bridge snap? Think about that. Well, bridges normally snap because of what we just talked about, the wear and tear, the heavy things, and the accumulation of different damages. Yes, sure, that's true. As you can see in this picture, this is a train track. In other words, trains are supposed to pass on it. This is a bridge built for trains. But why is it that the bridge has to snap all of a sudden? Is it because the train is too heavy? No, the bridge was built for that. And the answer is that things happened. Damages accumulate. Things were happening and nothing was done about it. Now, I know we talked a lot about bridges until just now. So let's actually talk about what's going on inside our minds. Or rather, what's going on inside our hearts. Now, we just talked about a bunch of different reasons. Things that happen on the outside, things that piss us off, things that make us snap. Well, actually, these things don't just make us snap. First, we know how to handle ourselves. We are human beings. We have different experiences that prevent us. We have different safety measures that prevent us from snapping at every little turn in our lives. But these are the things that most people would feel that they have to let out. These are the things that would cause people to snap. And let's just look at a few of those examples. I mean, there's a lot of different things, but just a few of those examples. Some of those things could be divorce, failure, people's words, or actions. You know, it could be somebody dissing you, and then that's the last straw, and snaps the camel's back, and then you go wild. Or it could be some action, somebody threw something at you and you were already having a hard day. Or it could be an actual object being thrown at your head when you're just trying to walk, and then somebody in the car throws water bottles at you. I mean, actually, I had that happen to me once. Oh my God, I lost it. It was at midnight and I was just walking back because that was before I bought my car, right? And I totally snapped. I ran after the car and I was demanding that the driver come out. Well, the driver just drove away, but still, when people throw things at you, I mean, it's just like, wow. It was midnight and I was tired, and I don't know where I got this burst of energy from, but I just snapped. So I know things happen. As we're a bridge, we don't get to pick and choose what gets to cross us. Things just happen. And because things just happen, we react. What can we do? How can we prevent this? The thing is, we can't. And that's just life. So how do we go about, doing something about it? Well, before we get to how we do what we do something about it, let's actually look at the things that led to where we are. So yes, these things happen. People get a divorce, people experience failure, people say things that are hurtful, people do things that are hurtful, but this is just part of everyday life. And this is what we call the superficial reason. These are the things that we can see with our eyes, feel with our bodies. But is this really the reason why we are here today? No, that's not the real reason. It's the accumulation of all these things, true, but let's take a more detailed look. So as these kinds of things wound our hearts, scar our hearts, and cause us to feel pain, our hearts begin to ache. You ever felt that? I mean, if you've ever had an experience dating somebody, they say you have a heartbreak, right? So that's the next part right here, a wounded heart. And they say, they talk about heartbreak all the time. And now, these are the things that actually happen when a lot of these kinds of difficulties and damages in our hearts go untreated. Every little thing that happens to you, you might just say, I'm man enough to take it. Sure. But if you're just taking it and doing nothing about it, is that really the safest way? Is that really the healthiest way? Our hearts are much like our bodies. When there's a wound, when there's a scar, we need to do something about it. But tell me, what have you done about the different things that happen to your lives? That's food for thought, right? We'll talk a little bit more about that as we move along. Now, finally, our hearts get sick. What does that even mean? Well, you know what that means. Our hearts get sick to a point where suicide begins to look like a good idea, and where committing crimes begin to look like a good idea. And for a while, it carries on pretty well until, you get caught. And now, we might blame all of our lives, all of our, the fact that we're here, into the fact that, oh, my life happened to me. Or as the internet would usually say, the streets chose me. I didn't choose the streets. But sure, that's one way of looking at things. Then does that mean that every single human being, for as long as they live, they're going to go through this collapse? No. There are people who are outside of prison. There are people who've never been in prison. There are people who will never see prison for the rest of their lives. So that isn't necessarily the only way of looking at things, but there is a different way of looking at things. And this is what we do in mind education. We want to take a step further into our hearts. So let's take a look. What happens is that after we go through some damaging experience in our hearts, We say, wow, that was terrible. I never want to experience that again. We try to pick and choose what gets to cross over this bridge of life. And we try to say, no, I don't want that. I don't want this. I don't want to eat my greens. I don't want to eat my veggies, right? We start out like that. And we say, no, I only want to have candy. I only want to have ice cream. And then little by little, what do we say? No, I don't want to listen to you, teacher. No, I don't want to do this homework. No, this is my least favorite subject, so I'm not even going to touch it. I don't care if I fail. Sound familiar? Or maybe you did everything right until a certain point, and you decided to say, no, now that I'm an adult, I'm going to choose what I want to do. I don't want to listen to you, wife. I don't want to listen to you, parents. I don't want to listen to da-da-da-da-da, right? We try to pick and choose what gets to cross our bridge. And because that is the case, what's going to happen? Our bridge stays exactly the way we are. All the damages, all the wear and tear, all the moss, all the mold, everything just remains exactly as it was. And we like to say, I'm not doing that. But what's that making our hearts do? We're taking all of these damages and we're just sustaining it. So now let's look at the further depths of this problem. We say this is the fundamental reason. Do you see what that is? I mean, it's a little difficult to read. It says weak heart. Our hearts become weak with the passing of time. Our hearts become weak as we're sustaining damages in our lives. That's inevitable. That's just going to happen whether we like it or not. But does that mean that every single person out there in the world, every single person who's out there who's never been in prison is eventually going to end up here or end up committing suicide? No. There is a different way of going about things. So let's look at it. As you can see, in our weak minds, we were talking about how we try to pick and choose what gets to cross the bridge. So, how do we get to that point? It's that we tend to take on a mindset that avoids conflict, that avoids difficulties, that avoids challenges, and say, you know what? You want me to do that? Nah, I don't want to do that. And whenever some difficulty happens, we say, no, I'm not going to take care of that. No, you take care of it. And we develop a mindset that avoids difficulties, responsibilities, and challenges. And when that continues on, our minds grow weaker. Our minds become so weak to the point where we get sick in our hearts that cause us to do these things. Now, how about on the other hand? Not everybody in the world has to sustain these damages and live the same way that ruins people. So now let's take a look. There is something called the strong mind. Well, obviously, if there's a weak mind, there's got to be a strong mind, right? So what do you think led a strong mind to be where it is? It is the mindset that overcomes. That's the type of mindset that says, yeah, I know, I don't want to have to work after hours, but you know what? I'll do it. I become stronger as I do this. Yeah, I don't want to do this homework assignment, but you know what? I'm going to do it because I'll grow stronger as I do it. And this is the mindset that allows people to have a strong mind. And that is the mindset that allows people to make the bridge stronger. Now, this might sound very abstract, thinking like, yeah, that's easier said than done. My life isn't a bridge. Yeah, if I could afford a reconstruction, yeah, I would have done it years ago. Well, easier said than done, right? We might be asking ourselves, well, how do we do that? Yes, we can make the bridge stronger, but how do you do that? Or, I don't have the money for that. Or maybe even, I don't have time for that. Well, at least we have a little bit of time in here than when we would be out there. Because life happens, everything's going so quickly, and we forget all of this. But the thing is, we want for you to learn how to do all of this so that we'll never end up here ever again. Now, I want you to assess this hypothetical, this imaginary bridge. Bridge, in other words, a person's life. Imagine if there's a bridge with a violent father, with an abusive mother, and a meth junkie brother. And you yourself are a meth junkie. I mean, the bridge itself. How strong do you think this bridge is? How close to snapping do you think this bridge might be? Very close, right? So let's take a look at one bridge that was very close to snapping and has snapped. This is the story of a man named James Anderson.
Is a criminal beyond redemption. Oftentimes we hear these words criminal or delinquent, but we really don't understand what leads someone that's young into these situations. Growing up, I had an extremely abusive family. My reality wasn't coming home to a family to have dinner. It was coming home to a dad that would beat me half to death. It was coming home to a mother that was abusive and a brother that was high on drugs. By the time I was 14 years old, I remember falling deeply addicted to crystal meth, partially on the drugs that my dad was giving me. I remember I got to a really low point in my life when I was about to turn 15, and my brother had just tried to commit suicide, and I realized I wanted to do the same thing. I remember emptying pill bottle after pill bottle into my hand, and as I started swallowing all these pills, hours started passing by and I started going into convulsions. And there was a moment I realized I didn't want to die. And I remember my dad came home and I ran to him and I said, "Dad, please just take me to the hospital." And as he saw what I did, instead of doing that, he started to beat me and I fell to the ground. He said, "If you want to die so bad now, you're going to have to deal with it on your own." That's the moment I realized that if nobody cared about me, why should I care about myself? So I started going in and out of jail. I started getting involved deeper into gangs. And by the time I was 17 years old, I was facing over a 35-year sentence. And I got lucky because a lot of people end up going to adult court. And I got left in juvenile court. So I got sentenced to 7 years in a strike. And everyone said, forget about him, he's never going to change. And the only reason why I'm where I am today is because one person decided to say, you are worth it, and show me something that's so powerful, which is love. When I was able to find freedom within my own heart, I realized that I needed to go back and be able to help other people also. I'm now graduating from UCLA this year. I helped to co-found a multi-million-dollar nonprofit organization. I'm a business owner for a Latino clothing line called Los Mayores. I've traveled the world. I think one of the most powerful moments I've had was being recognized for the work I've done in the White House. I just get to show kids that used to be in my position what it means to be loved and that you can live out your dreams if someone just believes in you. Am I still a criminal to you?
Now, as you saw in the story of James Anderson, did his bridge remain collapsed? No, he was able to rebuild. And what was that one point that changed everything around? He was given a presidential mention of honor. He was the CEO, or at least the co-founder, of a multi-million-dollar nonprofit. And he also started a company for people who were previously incarcerated, for ex-convicts to find a job and to sell clothes. That's amazing, isn't it? That's something that people who've never been in prison have a hard time doing. That's downright impossible. The fact that he was able to graduate UCLA and accomplish all these things, and he was traveling the world. You saw those pictures, right? That is possible when you rebuild the bridge. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we move forward in the Mind Education. So I hope that you stay tuned.